Story 1: The Interstate Stalker. Emily Harper had driven this road hundreds of times, but never at 1 in the morning, never in freezing rain, and never alone, with every instinct in her body telling her to turn back. The long stretch of I-84 cut through the mountains like a dark vein, a ribbon of asphalt disappearing into the winter fog. Her tires hummed on the wet road, windshield wipers beating frantically against sleet that refused to let up. Somewhere behind her, the last highway lights had vanished. She glanced at the digital clock on her dashboard, 1:06 a.m. Still 6 more hours until Eugene. Still 6 more hours of dark, empty interstate. If she hadn't stayed an extra night in Boise after Thanksgiving, her father would have insisted she drove in daylight. Her mother would have made her finish the leftover pie and lecture her about a young woman driving alone in the middle of the night. She could hear it now. At the time, she'd laughed it off. She was 23. A university senior. She'd made the trip a dozen times. What could possibly happen? She was thinking about that very question when headlights appeared in her mirror. Bright. Too bright. And getting closer. Emily sat up straighter. The road had been empty for nearly 70 miles, just her, some distant truck lights heading the opposite direction, and the endless hiss of rain. Now a pair of high beams was closing in, fast. Finally, she muttered. Someone else on the road. But something was off. The truck wasn't just approaching, it was barreling toward her, eating up distance like a predator closing in on prey. The vehicle came close enough for her to make out its silhouette. A Ford F-150. Black. No front plate. One of its headlights was covered with red tape, casting an angry bloody glow. The lights flashed once. Then twice. Then continuously, like a warning. Or a command. Emily swallowed. Okay, jerk wants to pass. Fine. Just go. She eased slightly to the right side of her lane, giving room. Instead, the F-150 swung even closer, practically kissing her rear bumper. The truck's engine roared. Emily felt her heart hammer against her ribs. What is your problem? She tapped her brake lightly, just enough for her tail lights to flare. The truck responded by ramming her rear bumper. Hard enough that her little Honda lurched forward, skidding slightly on the slick pavement. Emily screamed. What the hell? Her hands tightened on the wheel. She pressed the accelerator, speed climbing to 85, then 92, then 100 miles per hour. The rain streaked across her windshield, and the road ahead blurred. The truck stayed glued to her, the red-tinted headlight flickering inside her mirrors like a demonic gaze. She snatched her phone from the passenger seat with trembling hands. 911. Her thumb hit call. Sleet hammered the roof. The truck rammed her again, smaller this time, but enough to make the car fishtail. The line clicked. A faint voice, 911, state you're emergent. And then static. Emily stared at the screen. No signal. Her gut twisted. She tried again, but the road dipped into a mountain pass and her bars vanished entirely. Her stomach dropped as if gravity itself had betrayed her. Behind her, the truck's driver rolled down his window. She saw an arm extend out into the freezing rain. Through slashes of red light reflected off the wet pavement, Emily saw the man making a slow, deliberate gesture. Pull over. Her blood ran cold. No. 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 She looked forward. The exit signs blurred by in the darkness, unreadable through the sleet. She couldn't stop. Couldn't outrun him forever. Her brain raced. Police station? Gas station? Another car to flag down? Nothing. She was utterly alone. She spotted a tiny green sign through the rain. Exit 259, La Grande. A rural road. No lights. No guarantee of anything. But staying on the interstate wasn't an option. If he hit her again at 100 miles per hour, she'd spin into a guardrail and that would be that. Emily flicked on her turn signal and took the exit without slowing down. The truck swerved behind her, tires throwing up sheets of water. The ramp curved sharply, and she had to brake to avoid sliding into the gravel shoulder. The pickup lunged alongside, trying to cut her off, its red light blasting across her windshield like a horror movie filter. Emily screamed and jerked the steering wheel. The Honda bounced over potholes as she shot off the end of the ramp and onto a narrow dirt road leading into a thick forest. There were no street lamps. No houses. Just darkness and trees pressing close on both sides. The F-150 roared beside her, then cut sharply to the right, trying to pin her against a shallow embankment. She felt the tires lose grip, mud spraying across her windows. He was trying to force her off the road. If he succeeded out here, in the middle of nowhere. Emily's mind wouldn't let her finish the thought. She slammed the gas pedal, heart pounding as her car burst forward across an open stretch of muddy ground. The Honda groaned in protest, fishtailing wildly. The truck tried to mimic her, but its heavy tires sank deeper into the mud. For the first time, Emily had a sliver of distance. She aimed the wobbling headlights ahead and spotted something, a small building at the edge of the woods. A faded sign. Oregon State Police substation, closed after 6 p.m. She didn't care. Emily skidded to a stop on the gravel, threw the door open, and sprinted toward the front entrance, a jacket-soaked, hair plastered to her face. She hammered her fist against the glass. Help! Someone's chasing me. Silence. The station was dark. Behind her, she heard the roar of an engine trying to free itself from the mud. Tires spun. She heard something snap. She sprinted around the building, desperate. A dim light flickered on behind a window. A tired voice called out, "What the? Hold on." 30 seconds later the door opened and a night-duty officer, grey hair, uniform half-buttoned, looked at her in shock. "Miss, are you all right?" "What's?" There's a truck, this guy, he rammed me, he tried to make me stop, She couldn't even breathe properly. Her lips were turning blue. Her hands shook uncontrollably. The officer grabbed her shoulders gently. "Come inside." He locked the door behind her. 2 minutes later, the backup unit he called in radioed back. They'd found a black Ford F-150 abandoned 3 miles away, deep in the mud off a side road. Driver gone. Tracks leading into the forest, but the freezing rain had begun wiping them away. Inside the truck they found a coil of rope, several rolls of duct tape, a cheap plastic top, zip ties, and a black hoodie, stiff with dried blood. Emily stared at the items through the glass evidence window, stomach twisting. "He was planning to take me," she whispered. The officer exhaled slowly. "We don't know that yet. But it fits with some of the activity we've seen the past few months." Emily's eyes snapped up. "This has happened before." He hesitated. "We've had incidents. Strange reports along the interstate. Drivers being harassed, chased, forced onto rural roads. A couple abandoned vehicles. No suspects caught." Emily's heart sank. "No victims. None that lived long enough to testify," he admitted softly. Silence. The officer went on, "Local papers are calling him the Red Light Hunter. State patrols calling in more manpower. FBI might step in soon." Emily wrapped her arms around herself. She couldn't stop trembling. "What if he comes back?" "He won't come here tonight," he said, unlocking a storage cabinet with blankets and coffee. "And you're safe now. We'll get you home in the morning." But Emily didn't sleep. Even wrapped in a government-issued blanket, sitting in a locked room with police officers, she kept hearing the pickup's bumper crunching into her trunk. She kept seeing the red headlight glare. She kept imagining the mysterious driver stepping out of the woods, dripping rain, staring through the glass. Her car's dash cam was downloaded and reviewed. The footage showed only darkness, streaks of rain, and the haunting red glow of the truck's taped headlight. Grainy. Distorted. But real. The official report was filed at 2:27 a.m. By dawn, a team of officers followed the footprints into the forest, but they disappeared on rocky ground near a stream. Tracks gone. The driver had simply vanished. Hours later, Emily was driven home to Eugene by state troopers. She didn't speak for most of the trip. She stared out the window, watching the interstate roll by. The same road. The same dark forests. The same fog. Just before reaching Eugene, she noticed something ahead in the opposite lanes. A black pickup truck with a red-tinted headlight. Different model. Different plate. Just a random truck. Probably. Still, Emily turned away from the glass and closed her eyes. For the first time in her life, she realized her mother had been right. You never really know what's waiting on the road at night. Story 2, The Man Who Knew My Name. Sophie Bennett had worked the late shift at the King's Lantern for almost 2 years, and she had long ago gotten used to drunk students, broken glasses, and the stale smell of spilled cider. It was part of the Manchester University nightlife. But she had never gotten used to the way some men looked at her once they'd had enough to drink, heavy, lingering stares that followed her even when she turned away. But that night, she felt something different. The pub's windows rattled under a steady autumn rain, neon beer signs flickering against old brick walls. It was a slow Wednesday night, only a handful of regulars spaced out along the counter. Sophie's friend Ollie, the DJ who doubled as a barback, padded up behind her with a grin. "You've got a live one tonight." Sophie frowned. "What?" Ollie jerked his chin toward a man seated alone near the dartboard, nursing a pint. He looked to be around 30, dark hair, construction boots still dusty, face coarse and flushed as though from cold wind and cheap whiskey. His eyes followed her every time she moved. "He asked your name," Ollie whispered. Sophie rolled her eyes. "So? People ask that." "Yeah, but he asked a lot more. Like where you live. Who you live with. What time your shift ends." That got her attention. Sophie's heart fluttered uneasily, though she forced a smile when she stepped over with his drink. The man leaned forward, voice slurred but oddly focused. "So, you're Sophie." His lips stretched into a slow grin. "Pretty name." "Thanks," she said, keeping professional distance. "Anything else I can get you?" He looked her up and down in a way that made her skin prickle. "No, not yet." He paused. "You live near Deansgate, right?" Sophie froze. "Excuse me?" He chuckled, tapping the side of his head. "Just a guess." She didn't respond, just walked away. When she passed Ollie again, she whispered, "If he asks anything else, don't tell him." "Seriously?" Ollie looked guilty. He seemed harmless. "Sorry." The man finished his drink an hour later. He stood, zipped his jacket, and walked toward the door, then stopped beside Sophie. She could smell alcohol and damp concrete on his coat as he leaned in close enough to speak quietly. "Night, Sophie Bennett." He paused, his eyes gleaming with unsettling amusement. "Flat 3B, correct?" Sophie felt her blood run cold. She hadn't told him her surname. She hadn't mentioned her address. He winked and pushed out into the rain. 3 days later. Sophie was eating breakfast alone when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. At first she thought it was another delivery scam. Then she saw the message. "You sleep with your curls down." Cute. A second message arrived before she could react. A photo attachment. Sophie stared at the screen, heart slamming in her chest. The picture showed her asleep in bed, taken from outside her bedroom window, through a gap in the curtains she usually kept shut. How? She scrambled to the window, yanking the curtains closed. The glass fogged from her breath as she pressed against it, trying to see if anyone was outside. Nothing but rain. She tried calling Ollie. Voicemail. She dialed 101, non-emergency police, spent 6 minutes explaining the situation, and got a polite but dismissive response. Without proof of trespassing or threat, there's little we can do. Block the number for now. Block him? He already knew where she lived. That night she barely slept. Every car passing sounded like someone approaching. Every floorboard creak made her heart skip. The next incident. By the third day, she convinced herself the messages would stop. Maybe he was a creep doing it for attention. Maybe he'd moved on. Then she came home from a late shift, keys jingling, tired and wanting nothing but a hot shower and sleep. She unlocked her front door, stepped inside, and froze. Her bedroom window was open. The curtain was pulled fully aside. Sophie stared at it, ice spreading through her veins. She lived on the ground floor. Anyone could have reached in. But she always locked the windows. Always. Her throat felt dry. She stepped slowly into the narrow kitchen. Something sat on the counter. A warm KFC takeaway box. Still steaming. Her hand shook as she opened it. Chicken wings. Fresh. Not hers. Next to it was a small handwritten note, written on her own notepad from her desk. You lied about the two flatmates. I checked. Enjoy the chicken, love. Sophie staggered backward. Her legs nearly gave out. She grabbed her phone and called the police again, this time demanding immediate response. An officer came, took a statement, checked the window, and nodded sympathetically. No fingerprints on the sill. The rain wiped everything. We'll file a report, but unless he comes back or leaves evidence. Sophie wanted to scream. After the officer left, she texted Ollie in all caps to never speak to strange customers again. His guilt-ridden apologies flooded in. But that didn't help her sleep. She left the lights on. All of them. 2 nights later. She finished work early. Rained the whole walk home. The flat smelled faintly of mold and student life, old carpet, damp textbooks, the usual. She set her purse down and kicked off her shoes. Something was wrong. She sensed it before she registered the details. The living room lamp was on. She had turned it off that morning. The heating was running, too. Warmer than it should have been. She took one cautious step forward. And then she saw him. Ryan Caldwell. Sitting on her second-hand sofa as casually as if he lived there. Still wearing dusty construction boots. Still wearing the same navy jacket. Holding a freshly cut copy of her house key, clinking them casually between his fingers. He smiled when she entered. I told you I'd see you later. Sophie couldn't speak. Her body locked between fight and freeze. Her mind screamed for movement. He stood slowly. The keys jingled. She caught a glimpse of something clipped inside his pocket, a folded utility knife. Look at you, he said softly. Even prettier when you're scared. Sophie bolted. Ryan lunged, but she was faster, slamming into the hallway door and bursting into the stairwell. Her bare feet slapped concrete as she sprinted upward, screaming for help. Her voice echoed through the narrow space. A door opened above. Then another. A neighbor stepped out, an older woman in slippers holding her phone. What's going on? Sophie choked out, he's in my flat, call the police, he has a key. Footsteps thundered below. Ryan was giving chase. The neighbor didn't hesitate. She shouted down the hallway. You stay where you are. Police are on the way. Other doors opened. More witnesses. More phones. Ryan froze halfway up the stairs, anger twisting his face into something cold and ugly. Bitch, he hissed. Could have just been nice. Then he turned and bolted back down the stairs. Sophie sobbed in the neighbor's arms as they waited for sirens. The arrest. Police stormed the building 12 minutes later. Ryan was caught trying to flee down the street, but pulled up, mud splattered up to his knees. He didn't even deny it, just laughed while they cuffed him. When officers emptied his pockets, they found the copied keys, the utility knife, a folded piece of paper containing 6 printed photographs of Sophie sleeping. He was still grinning when put into the squad car. She liked the attention, he told officers. They always do. The aftermath. The trial took 8 weeks. Ryan was charged with burglary, trespassing, stalking, possession of a weapon, multiple counts of harassment. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Sophie attended the hearing but couldn't bring herself to look at him. She kept her eyes on the judge's bench, hands clasped so tightly her nails dug into her palms. Her flat was emptied the following week. She moved across town into a new place with reinforced locks, new curtains, and motion lights installed outside the windows. She slept with a lamp on every night. She still worked at the pub, but she never stayed until closing anymore. Ollie walked her home or she took an Uber. No more late-night solo walks. No more windows left open even for a second. People called her paranoid. But when you wake up and realize someone has been watching you long before you ever noticed them, paranoia is just another word for survival. Sophie wasn't the same woman anymore. She never would be. But she was alive. And that was more than Ryan had planned. Story 3, The Compound. Riley Parker had always been the kind of girl who needed to prove something, mostly to herself. She wasn't reckless, exactly, but she had a stubborn streak inherited from her father, who used to say, confidence is built in the moments nobody sees. So at 18, freshly graduated and months away from starting at Montana State University, Riley packed her old red Jeep Cherokee and drove into the mountains alone to spend a weekend camping near an abandoned silver mine outside Libby. No friends. No cell signal. No, find my iPhone. Just one night where she wasn't a kid anymore. By 7 p.m., the sun had disappeared behind the peaks, staining the clouds purple and gold. She pitched her tent in a clearing not far from a rotting wooden sign. No trespassing, property of NMPF. She didn't know what the initials meant. Didn't care. Probably some forgotten mining company or lumber outfit that had closed up decades ago. The forest around her was silent except for the wind and distant running water. No highway noise. No light pollution. No neighbors. Riley cooked chili over her portable stove, crawled into her sleeping bag, and fell asleep to the sound of the trees shifting overhead. The noise. She woke to the low hum before she was fully conscious. Her brain tried to place it. Generator? Engine? Dream? Then she heard the whomp 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 of helicopter rotors. Riley snapped awake. A harsh white spotlight swept across the trees, cutting through the darkness like a knife. Her tent glowed bright as day. She could hear branches snapping and men shouting over the roar. What the hell? Before she could reach her boots, a voice outside bellowed. Move! We got one in the tent. Her heart jammed into her throat. The zipper jerked down from the outside. A gloved hand grabbed her ankle and yanked. Riley screamed as she tumbled out into the freezing dirt, flashlight beams stabbing into her eyes. 6, maybe 7, men surrounded her. All wearing combat fatigues, tactical vests, and AR-15s with mounted flashlights. Their faces were smeared with mud and grease paint. One wore night vision goggles pushed up onto his helmet. Riley lay stunned, cold air ripping through her thin thermal shirt. The man who pulled her out spoke first, leaning close enough for her to smell tobacco and sweat. "You're trespassing," he snarled. "And trespassers here don't leave alive." Riley's voice shook. "This is federal forest land." I didn't know." A boot kicked her shoulder, not enough to break bones, but enough to shut her up. "This ain't federal land," the man hissed. "This is northern Montana Patriot Front territory. Sovereign ground." The name hit her like a gut punch. She'd heard rumors, online articles about extremist militias hiding in remote parts of the state, stockpiling weapons, training for the coming collapse. She always assumed it was fringe journalism exaggeration. Apparently not. Hands grabbed her arms, zip-tying them behind her back. Someone rifled through her tent, tossing everything out into the mud: sleeping bag, stove, food, clothing. Her iPhone was snatched up and smashed against a tree. Hey, she cried helplessly. The man with the night vision goggles crouched next to her, shining a tactical light into her eyes. No phone. No GPS, smart girl, except you hiked straight into a restricted zone. I didn't know. Riley gasped. I'll leave, just let me. He struck her across the cheek, not a punch, but an open-handed, shut up, slap that sent stars dancing across her vision. No one leaves without clearance, he said calmly. Tonight, you're coming back to camp. Taken. They tore her tent down in under a minute and loaded everything into the back of an old military surplus truck. Then someone hoisted her by the armpits like a sack of grain and shoved her forward through the trees. Her boots slid on pine needles as she struggled to stay upright. She could hear dogs barking in the distance. Real hunting dogs. She swallowed hard. They marched her down a slope and into a clearing surrounded by rusted shipping containers stacked like walls. Burned barrels glowed orange in the dark, smoke drifting up into the helicopter's receding searchlight. There were more of them, maybe 20 men total. Some cleaning rifles. Some drinking beer. All armed. Not drunk idiots, disciplined, serious. She was now inside their compound. Someone grabbed her backpack and dumped it on a folding table under a top awning. A man with a beard down to his chest rummaged through it, pulling items out one by one. Passport, he said, raising an eyebrow. Planning to skip the country? Riley's voice cracked. I brought it so it wouldn't get stolen. He smiled coldly. Too late. Another man approached with a coil of rope and duct tape. The blood drained from Riley's face. This wasn't just intimidation. This was preparation. She was going to die here. The escape. They tied her wrists to a metal post driven into the dirt and left her under the awning while the men returned to their tasks. The smells of oil, sweat, and burning trash filled the air. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely think. There has to be a way out. Anything. She twisted her ankles, feeling the weight of her hiking boots, and then remembered. Inside the left boot, stitched into a hidden liner, was a slim folding knife her father had given her for emergencies. He made her practice one-handed opening, just in case. Riley forced her breathing to slow. She slid her boot gently against the metal post, grinding the zipper tie binding her wrists upward. If she could stretch her arms just enough. One of the men laughed 10 feet away, raising a beer bottle. Someone else shouted that the fire needed fresh timber. No one was looking at her. She bent her knee higher, digging the edge of the boot against the post. Her fingers stretched, brushed the leather, pinched it. She worked the knife up an inch at a time. Sweat rolled down her forehead. A dog barked suddenly. Flashlights swept the camp. Riley froze. Hey, a voice shouted. You got her secure. Another voice, she's going nowhere. Footsteps receded. Riley let out a tiny breath. One more push. Her fingers found the hidden pocket zipper. She eased the knife out, opened it with her thumb, and began sawing at the zip ties behind her. Every second felt like an hour. Then, snap. She was free. Night run. She didn't run at first. She crept behind a stack of firewood, listening. Men were singing now, drunk on victory or ritual pride. Someone stoked a fire. No one was guarding her directly. She sprinted. Into the trees. Into total blackness. Her breath tore from her lungs in clouds. Branches whipped her face. Her boots crashed through the underbrush. Behind her came chaos. The girl's gone. Dogs? Get the dogs. Search teams, move. Gunshots cracked behind her like fireworks. She had no idea what direction she was running. No compass, no light, no trail. Just instinct and desperation. The dogs bayed louder. Closer. She ran until her chest burned. Her ribs screamed under each breath. The forest floor tilted suddenly and vanished under her boots. Riley fell. She tumbled down a rocky slope, hitting her shoulder, hip, then her ribs. Something cracked, pain exploded across her side. She rolled until she slammed against a fallen tree. She tried to scream, but only a strangled breath escaped. She touched her side. Even in the darkness, she could feel the wrongness. A broken rib. Maybe more. Above the cliff, flashlights danced. Voices cursed. Dogs snarled. But no one dared climb down the drop in the dark. Riley forced herself up and kept moving, limping now. Each breath was agony. After another hour, maybe more, she stumbled into a rusted clearing. An abandoned railway track. Somewhere in the distance, faint but real, she heard the low rumble of a freight locomotive. Her vision blurred. She staggered onto the tracks and waved her arms weakly. The engine's horn blared. The train screeched, slowing just enough for a brakeman to see her silhouette. What the? Hey! Hold up! Strong hands grabbed her as she slumped forward. Riley finally blacked out. Next morning. By dawn, the FBI, state police, and U.S. Forest Service were in the mountains conducting a raid, choppers, K-9 units, and assault teams. But when they arrived, the compound was gone. Everything burned. Barrels melted. Shipping containers still smoldering. No bodies. No weapons left behind. Just a single scorched sign hanging from a tree. Next one won't escape. That afternoon, Riley woke up in a hospital in Kalispell with her mother crying beside her and agents asking questions. They wanted descriptions. They wanted locations. They wanted names. Riley had none. In the official incident report, she was labeled the only confirmed survivor of the Northern Montana Patriot Front abduction attempts. But without arrests, no charges stuck. The compound had evaporated into forest and legend, just like every extremist group that managed to stay one step ahead of local law enforcement. Aftermath. Riley recovered slowly. 3 broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, dehydration, and bruises covering half her body. Her Jeep was later found stripped and burned 10 miles from the camp. She moved to Seattle with relatives and started school the next fall. She changed majors to criminal justice.